Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another round of sound. This is the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. Year number 25, believe it or not. We're still cranking them out, and we have a lot to get into tonight. We're going to talk about the Penguins and the mess they find themselves in. Pitt, Penn State, both 7-0, both big games coming up. But the #1 topic tonight on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown will be the Steelers, who have a chance to move into the third position in the American Football Conference. Here to debate is your panel tonight. Ray Fittipaldo from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Brian Batko, in his maiden voyage here, is in the middle, appropriately, surrounded by these two journalistic legends. And to your left is Will Graves.
Shout out Wanda King.
Yeah, you got to get Wanda in there all the time. You did it early this time.
I did.
At the end of the show. All right, guys. Brian, I'm going to start with you.
All right,
this is your first one, and this is about this wide receiver story, which never seems to go away. I mean, it's been going on for since March with Ayuk, and that's gone to other people. Now we're here with Cooper Kupp. Looks to me like Cooper Kupp's not going anywhere, especially because the Rams are all of a sudden in a position to win a division in the West. What do you think will happen with him specifically as it pertains to the Steelers, and what will the Steelers do?
Yeah, absolutely, Bob. It's the saga that never ends, in part because it's not just pure speculation. We know the Steelers have been interested in acquiring some of these guys, some of these big-name guys, and it just hasn't gotten done. Now the market's starting to dry up a little bit. Devontae Adams off the board. Amari Cooper was never going to be able to come here anyway, probably, with the Browns not wanting to deal with the Steelers, but he's gone. And, yeah, I mean, there's going to be teams who are a little bit desperate to add some firepower near the trade deadline to make that push, but you've got to have some sellers as well willing to do that. The wild card, I think, for them to some extent is Roman Wilson. Is he ever going to get healthy this season to provide a little bit more punch for this offense? If it's not going to be Cooper Kupp, which I don't think it will be at this point, the Rams looking a little bit better now. Maybe there's some other older guys out there kind of like Cooper Kupp that they could get in on with.
Like Mike Williams.
Yeah, Adam Thielen, someone like
Adam
that.
Thielen.
Deontay Johnson.
No.
They cannot trade for him.
Can't do that. Can't do that,
They
right?
cannot do that.
Even if you could, I wouldn't want him. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the Jets lost again today. They're 2-6. Mike Williams, Bob, I mean, you're going to be able to get him for close to nothing. I think maybe a 7th-round pick. So if you're looking for bargain basement shopping, I think a guy like Mike Williams would fit. The problem is, if you look at the Steelers, all of these guys who are on the roster still have roles. Van Jefferson blocks. Calvin Austin is getting used a little bit more each and every week. I suppose Scotty Miller can go if you bring in a receiver, so maybe he would be the odd man out. But if you're going to add anyone, I think it would be someone of the ilk like a Mike Williams.
I mean, I still think that their best option is to get the ball to Pat Freiermuth more. I think he is legitimately their number 2 receiver. They just need to throw him the ball. I think because it's obvious they have struck out with everybody, with, obviously the Ayuk thing, the Kupp thing. If Sean McVay comes out and says, this guy's not going anywhere, he's not going anywhere. And to your point, that division is awful. We don't, the 49ers do not look like the 49ers. The Seahawks got boat raced today. Yeah. Cardinals look a little frisky, but I mean, it's there for the taking because with their full complement, they just beat the Vikings, So I still think maybe they take a flyer on somebody, but I still think their best option is to get the ball to Freiermuth more often.
All right, you brought up Roman Wilson. Back to you, Brian. What is going to happen with him? Because if he does play and contribute, then that solves some of your problem right there. They counted on him, and he's not yet done anything.
That's a big if, and even Mike Tomlin has sort of framed it that way at his Tuesday news conferences. There's lack of ability to get on the field because of trying to catch up. The ankle injury in camp. Now he's dealing with a hamstring injury. Maybe it's one of those things where you just kind of shut him down for the year. But if you're going to do that, then you do have that open roster spot that Ray mentioned. And I think, Ray, whether it's Cooper Kupp or, probably not, but I think the boxes I want to check if the Steelers do acquire a receiver, someone who's a little bit bigger body. They have smaller guys with quickness who can run routes. Get a bigger body in here who's done it, who's a little bit of a veteran presence and can provide something different to that room.
That is a really good call. You could put him on IR, even if it's a minor hamstring injury. You don't have to take him off. You can keep him on there all season long. You've been doing okay without him. You're 5-2 without him. Depending on what happens tomorrow night, you could be 6-2 without your 3rd-round draft pick. So that's actually something that could happen.
All right, let's talk about Russell Wilson, Will Graves. We saw him last week to a chorus of boos right off the bat. When first half, I don't know what people wanted immediately, but they weren't happy. And then all of a sudden he turned it on. Good play action guy. He's good in prime time. You saw the deep throw. They were not perfect throws, but he gave opportunity for receivers. Where can this offense go with him?
I think it can be consistently productive. I want to be very clear. I've been on this show. I've been on Sports Call talking about. I thought they should have stuck with Fields. I think Fields has a higher ceiling at this point in his career. I just think there's a chance he can get better, but it's hard to I mean, look, Mike T was right. I mean, he did exactly what Mike T wants him to do. He took care of the ball. He got the ball to George Pickens. And all of a sudden, what do you know? Then in the fourth quarter, Najee's ripping off 15, 20, 25-yard runs, right? So I think that, like, are they going to score 30 points every week like they have the last couple of weeks? I don't think so. But I think if this team can get to 24 every week, I would like their chances.
He was right for 1 week at least, Will. I mean, we'll see if it becomes a situation where it actually looks better as it progresses, as Russell Wilson knocks off some of that rust, or does the bottom start to fall out a little bit with a guy who's soon to be 36, did have that calf injury that popped up twice in training, before training camp and then before week 1. So I'm with you, Will. I didn't think they should have made that move. I'm not losing any sleep over it thus far. Actually fell asleep on my couch watching sports the last couple of nights, so all good. But yeah, I mean, he's got to string together another game going into the off week, and then, I assume they'll beat the Giants and he'll continue to have that job.
I thought the Jets played right into the Steelers' hands. Russell Wilson's strength is the deep ball. They played a lot of one-on-one. They stuck with man coverage. So we'll see if the Giants and other teams down the road continue to do that. But I think the ceiling is higher with the passing game. But I will admit, you do miss some of Justin Fields' running ability.
Got about a minute 30 I want to ask you guys about, and I know you're writing about this tomorrow in the Post-Gazette, Najee Harris, but Will, he looks like a different runner right now. I mean, this guy is, 20-plus yard runs where we didn't see many of them in the last, I don't know how many.
I think, and I wrote about this a couple weeks ago. Brian had a great story in the Post-Gazette today. Pom, you should read your Post-Gazette every day.
Well, it was for tomorrow, technically. So I wanted people to, it's like a
the line.
promo.
Look, he gets the most contact before he gets the line of scrimmage of any back in the league, right? What does that tell you? That tells you the line is not good. The line is getting better. They're leaning on the run. I mean, they're continuing to because they're ahead, they can lean on the run late. And we saw the late runs against the Chargers. We saw the late runs against the Raiders. We saw the late runs last week. I mean, to me, it's more of a process of the line has been pretty good. And, I mean, Najee, in Brian's story, Eddie Faulkner talked about how he seems to be a little bit, I'm not going to use the word lighter because Najee gets a little sensitive about his weight, but he does seem a little more agile and nimble than he's been in the past.
Motivated because he has. He still should be motivated.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Look, the three of us are in the room, and I can say this being around Najee for 4 seasons now. I think that he cares more about the team winning than probably 40 guys on that roster.
Well, I'm not disputing that.
And I think his care level
is the motivation of making money.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, he was that's to say he wasn't motivated before. I think he was.
Well, I
certainly think there's a level of disrespect when they don't pick up the option. Guys can go one of two ways, and he's kind of leaned into
quick, both of you.
Yeah, he's playing carefree. I mean, he would never say this himself, Will, because
he wouldn't.
He's loath to kind of be introspective. But both Eddie Faulkner's running backs coach and his buddy Pat Freiermuth told me this week, Bob, he's just having more fun out there than he's ever had in his first 3 seasons.
Yeah, pressure's off. He's going to get paid one way or the other, whether it's the Steelers or some team on the open market that's going to throw a lot of money at him.
And Brian, look at James Conner. Look at James Conner's career. I think when he left, we thought, well, what's going to happen with James Conner? That guy is a productive.
Touchdown maker.
Yeah, as a proud fantasy owner, I am very pleased with James Conner still getting it done in year 8.
We got to take a break. Fantasy people, a lot of them didn't like some of the performances today. Specifically, if you had, the Ravens defense, for example, the Bengals. We're going to talk about what happened today in the AFC North. That's next, right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. All right, welcome back. We continue talking about the AFC North, which suddenly is in possession of the Steelers if they win tomorrow all alone because the Ravens lost to the Browns with Jameis Winston. The Bengals are 0-4 at home. Ray Fittipaldo, I did not see that happen. I didn't see a lot of this happening. What's your take on the Steelers' position right now and what it means for them in long term in the AFC?
Yeah, great Sunday for the Steelers. Kind of nice for them to sit back and kind of watch what happened. Here's the deal. If you get to 6-2, if you beat the Giants on Monday night, you are set up to potentially be the 2 or the 3 seed. I don't think anyone right now is going to catch the Kansas City Chiefs, but I think the Bills certainly will be in it. The Texans will be in it, but the Steelers, if they can stay ahead of the Ravens, they might be in it as well.
Yeah, staying ahead of the Ravens, though, I still think that's going to be tough. I mean, this Browns performance today, it honestly didn't shock me, Bob. I mean, sometimes that new quarterback bump really does wonders for a team. And when it's a veteran like Jameis Winston, who's been around and seen a lot, that can give a team a confidence. And, if there was ever anybody who was going to get a little jolt from a quarterback change, it was probably the Browns and what was going on with Deshaun Watson. They just did this last year with Joe Flacco or the year before when he came in, and all of a sudden everything shifted for them. I
mean, there's no bigger indictment, at least from a football perspective, outside of a legal perspective with him, that Deshaun Watson is done. Like, he can never play for the Browns again. He can't. That being said, we were talking about this before the show. It seems like the AFC's already got this big gap between the teams that are terrible and like the AFC East outside the Bills is bad, and everybody else is, like the South is bad outside the Texans. So the Steelers, I mean, even going 500 the rest of the way would probably certainly get them in the tournament. But that second half of the season, like maybe the Browns aren't good, but Washington looks a little frisky. We're liking that. Shout out Jaden Daniels. Trust me, I've been waiting 30 years. I've been waiting 30 years for some good stuff to happen. I'm happy about this, but the Steelers are also not like, let's not pretend that they're
world beaters.
The 2008 Steelers.
No, and there's the second half of the season, and a lot of things can change, as we've seen, good or bad.
And as you said, Will, I mean, I think of all those teams that are kind of not in the playoff picture right now in the AFC, I think you mentioned this when we were sitting out there, the Bengals are the one that could get hot still. I mean, they got...
but they're 0-4 at home.
And they got run over today by the Eagles, but I think the Eagles are better than people give them credit for. A lot of people see Nick Sirianni and think he's a goofball, which he kind of is, but that team still has a lot of talent and can still beat good teams. So I think the Bengals with Joe Burrow, and if they get T. Higgins back right and healthy, they can still make some noise and go on a little bit of a run.
All right, I'm going to give you guys a choice here. Last question of this segment, and that is pick a team in the AFC that will emerge and surge in the second half of the season. I watched Kansas City today again. I wasn't overly impressed, but they keep winning, and they're going to get better. They have to get better. But if there's a team for me, it would be Buffalo. I think Cooper's presence there gives them something with a lot of different weapons for Josh Allen.
Keon Coleman is stepping up too, the rookie, number 33 overall pick. They're not playing great right now, but we saw them play great last year. I'm going to go Houston Texans. I think they have a little bit of a run on them in the second half.
Yeah, Bob, you stole my thunder. I was going to say the Bills as well. I think people were a little unsure and uncertain about them coming into this season. They didn't do much to change their team. The defense was a question mark, but going on the road today to Seattle and blowing them out the way they did. I mean, Josh Allen still got it, and Ray mentioned Keon Coleman, the rookie. That Amari Cooper acquisition, I think, too, is making them a lot more dangerous as we go through the rest of the season.
I think a team that's built for playoff-type football, the Chargers, they are sort of the Steelers West. They want to win games 20-17, 17-13. And, look, they're going to grind the ball out. Dobbins is productive for them. You saw Ladd McConkey got a couple of touchdowns today, so the passing game is starting to show signs of life. Herbert, I think, to me, still can be a very elite player. So I see them sort of being that second team in the AFC West, and I could see them maybe, going on the road even in the playoffs, because that team is built, the way they play and the way they are built to win.
So Harbaugh wants to play it, right? That's what they do. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Penguins, who have been missing in action on this West Coast trip. They're back, but man, only 1 point in 4 games. What's gone wrong? And what about Tristan Jarry? All next, coming up on KDKA. All right, we're back talking about the Penguins, who return home this week, mercifully. They're 3-6-1. They were awful on this road trip in terms of giving up shots, opportunities with not much pushback. Will, you cover a lot of hockey here. I want to ask you guys about this team. It looks as if they just do not want to play and compete. They're making it easy. No, when I say that, from this standpoint, they're making it easy for teams to score. Last night, 3 goals in a minute. Come on now. And they were all 2-on-1 breakaways. They're so sloppy. How is this happening for a team that's so old?
The interesting thing is Edmonton is actually the oldest team in the league, and you wouldn't have known that the other night by the way that they were playing, right? They toyed with the Penguins for 2.5 hours the other night. They've been a 500 team for 2 years, and everybody's sort of afraid, out of respect for 87 and 71 and Letang and 58, that they're competitive. They're competitive. They deserve the respect. This is a bad team. This might be one of the 5 or 6 worst teams in the league right now. Does that mean they can get better? They can get better, but are they anybody that thinks this is a playoff team, even a fringe playoff team? But this is what happens. You wanted your nostalgia tour. There's a very good chance the 500, 1600 night a couple of weeks ago might be the highlight of the season. That's just the way. And that's what they wanted. That's what they wanted. Yeah, but that's what they got.
They wanted more than that. Right? They thought they had a goaltender who was going to do it.
I was just going to say, look, I'm a football writer like Ray. We can't all be jack of all trades like Will Graves. But, I'll just say this much. I think you could talk yourself into a team with this much veteran experience being able to pull out of a rut when you start slow. But I just think the Jarry thing just looms over all of it. And, when you make a decision like that to keep down that road with him, I think for any team and any organization, one of the toughest things to do is kind of cut bait with one of your own, a homegrown guy. You invested so much time in the scouting process, the development, the evaluation once he is in your program and playing meaningful games for you. But at some point, it's just quitting time.
Well, I don't know if I can do that with him. They signed him. They have to pay him. I think they're trying. He played last night, by the way, at Wilkes-Barre, and looked okay, but that's Wilkes-Barre. He has to come up here and play. They've invested too much. I don't think you just say that's it with him, can you?
No, eventually, Bob, they got to go back to him. I don't know if the time is this week or next week, but eventually they're paying him. He's got to be their goalie. So they got to get him right. I think it was interesting. They concluded this road trip at Vancouver, one of the best teams in the West last year. Who's the GM out there? Was Jim Rutherford underappreciated in Pittsburgh? The Hextall regime was a disaster. And can you guys tell me what good moves has Kyle Dubas made since he's been here? So 2 GMs in a row now haven't really done anything to help this roster.
Yeah, Dubas is under a lot of pressure.
Well,
if you had to put one, is there a person on the hot seat? Is it Mike Sullivan?
No. To Ray's point, I think with Jari, I think there's no chance. They have 3 home games this week. They play Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. He should not. His next game needs to be on the road, because if he comes up and they play the defense they've been playing lately, and he gives up 2 in the first period, I mean, it's over for him. It is absolutely over for him.
To compare to what we think about this week for the most part, kind of reminds me of the Giants and Daniel Jones and all the money they gave him. And it's like now you're kind of just stuck with a guy who you're just going to be in this run-of-the-mill mediocre cycle for a while.
And play the young guys. I mean, get McGroarty back up here, put him in the lineup. I'm not sure. I mean, eventually, they're one of the oldest teams in the league. They got some young guys who can maybe improve the roster. Bring them up, see what they can do.
If you're going to bring them up too, right, you got to play them. You can't play them for 4 or 6 minutes, right? He's got to be out. All these guys. I think that's one of the things Mike Sullivan used to do when he first came here, and when he knew all those guys at Wilkes-Barre. Well, right, he brought them all up and played them all. He trusted them. Now they come and they last for a couple minutes and they don't play.
Well, I mean, look, he's putting the lines in a blender pretty much every game now, which is sort of a sign of desperation. The Flyers, I was watching the Flyers last week, and they talked about, like, Torts had literally had 18 different line combinations in like 4 games because he kept moving guys around. That being said, if you get the defense, the blue line to play a little better, that would. But if they're your 2 best players and 2 highest paid and 2 potential Hall of Famers, those are the guys that have the worst habits out of the group, it's not good.
We got to take a break. When we come back, Pitt and Penn State both potentially on a crash course in a playoff. We'll talk about that next, right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. How about Pitt? 3 pick-six in 1 half. That's something you just never see, and we saw it here on Saturday as Pitt wins, so they're 7-0. So is Penn State. Ray, I want to ask you about this now. Pitt has a tough game at SMU, which somehow won against Duke the other night, and I don't know how many penalties they committed, but they
6
won.
turnovers by
turnovers.
SMU.
Yeah,
6 turnovers in 1
You
game.
never win a game when you turn the ball over 6 times. Pitt is a 6.5-point underdog. What do you think about that game?
Yeah, that's probably a little bit high for me. I do think I give Pitt a ton of credit. They brought in a lot of new players through the portal. It's worked out for them. But I don't really view them as a team that's going to contend for the college football playoff. So whether it's this week at CMU, Clemson the week after, I think at some point they're going to come back down to earth.
Yeah, one loss could really, especially if it's not against Clemson, it could be devastating for them, can't it?
Yeah, this SMU team's also feeling good about themselves and on a roll, but in a lot of shootouts for sure, with who they've played and squeaking past Duke in overtime. It's not a bad Duke team this year, but I mean, this is one of Pat Narduzzi's best coaching jobs so far, I think. As Ray said, I mean, really remade a lot of this defense, and unlike some past Pitt teams that may have underachieved, I don't know how many of these guys are going to be surefire pros. I mean, I think they're doing this right now with a lot of schematics, and they're playing with confidence. If they can get Eli Holstein playing a little bit better, then yeah, I don't see any reason why they can't send some pressure at this redshirt sophomore SMU quarterback and steal this one on the road. And then, man, what a showdown that'll be when Clemson comes to town.
Well, look, the defense was a problem early in the year. And now with the defense is like one thing they've always been able to do during Pat's entire time is blitz and get pressure. They didn't. They have now. They look like a pretty complete team. Holstein, to your point, has taken a step back the last couple of weeks. Maybe teams have got some film on him. I didn't love him getting – Pat says he's going to be fine. I didn't love him getting hurt there at the end on that QB option run. But I give them a puncher's chance. They have a puncher's chance that the defense can create the kind of pressure they've got in the last couple of weeks.
Real quick, I have 30 seconds. Penn State, Ohio State, that's been the team that seems to always have their number. Can they get it done this week, yes or no?
I think this Ohio State team is different. A lot of pressure on Ryan Day. I think Penn State finally gets it done this year.
I agree with Ray, actually. Will Howard talking a big game, the Ohio State quarterback who's from Pennsylvania. You love those juicy storylines, but I think Penn State will get this one.
I'll be up there on Saturday, and I fully expect Penn State to beat them sort of handily, to be honest.
Handily?
Yeah.
They really haven't handily beaten.
Ohio State is gettable. They're highly gettable.
I wouldn't go that far, but we'll see.
All right. We got to take a break. Before we do, though, I want to remind you, if you're considering an electric vehicle, but you're worried about the cost of a home charger, number one Cochran Kia is there to help you. When you buy or lease a new EV this October, you're going to get a $1,500 credit toward your charger purchase. That includes installation. Plus, their partner Treehouse can handle all the permitting and installation. This offer is available only at number one Cochran Kia. So mention this ad when you buy. Shop electric vehicles now at CochranKia.com. It's been fun. We are done. Tomorrow night, it's the Steelers and the Giants. Steelers are big favorites in this game, but beware of what happened to teams like the Bengals and the teams like the Ravens today. Big thanks to Ray Fittipaldo who came in. Brian Batko, very smooth on your first day here. Will Graves. Wanda, any more for Wanda?
Wanda. Hey, looking forward to your text in the morning, Wanda.
All right, Wanda, I want one too. We'll see you next Sunday.
I'll give you his
right
number.
At 11:35 for another edition of the number one Cochran Sports Showdown.